Hello and welcome to the Physiology of Endurance Running podcast. It's the end of the year and we're back for another Q&A. Jen's back with us as well. How are you both doing?
Oh, wow, recovering from this marathon, it's a bit harder than I originally thought, I think. I thought, I'd be back popping along maybe like 7 to 10 days later, which, goes against everything I've been told and know, but I'm an anomaly, so I should be fine. But it's been a bit rough this week. Finally got my legs underneath me, just my heart rate needs to come down a bit.
Whereas Dan's out doing 30k at 350 a k. He's
Not
back.
quite 30k, but I had to get my 21 hours in for the SOAR challenge. And I've done it very efficiently. I think I'm 21 hours and 3 minutes or something like that. So, no, I'm feeling pretty good, to be fair. Ran my fastest 400 I've done in months, potentially this year, to be fair, on Friday. 66 seconds, the end of a rep, with my head torch on in the dark and rain. So, yeah, I think I'm going all right.
Got a 5k coming up soon then? Something like that?
Just get a bit of speed back before I get ready for marathon training again. Still
You're ready for the 100-meter race.
That's it. I'm getting ready. Hey, I went through in 32, so I must be doing all right.
Whoa.
Doing all right.
I've heard a rumor there might be a late entrant from Jemima.
She was giving it the chat, wasn't she? She was giving it the talk last night. And, you came round with food.
I think you were pumping her up.
She was saying, Jen, she reckons she'd have you because she's around 27 seconds for 200.
Ooh,
so
yeah, I don't think I've got that in my wheelhouse,
I'm not sure she has quite any more because I don't know if the last time she broke 30 seconds for 200, but she's got those long levers and those fast twitch fibers don't disappear.
Can she do a block start? I think that should have me on that.
Oh God, you can't block start. No, I mean that would be a 27 seconds from a standing start, 100%. Yeah,
maybe
we'll organise this race,
that
race.
I said this race has to be soon because once Jen's in Rotterdam mode.
Nah, I've still got that fast twitch just lurking at the back, ready to come out when it's needed.
I want it as soon as possible. I think whilst you two are still on the comeback, I'm ready to go. So let's what are you doing tomorrow? Let's get it organised.
I mean, me and you will both be at Cardiff Met, so we'll have a track.
Yeah, Jen, what are you up to tomorrow? Come up to Cardiff Met.
We've got long travel day tomorrow. I just don't think I'm around,
We can get there early. I got nothing on in the morning. Owen's not working.
Dust down my spikes. I'll be ready to go. Is that allowed? Is that part of the rules?
You can do anything you want for this.
Yeah.
Full speed suit, spikes. I'm gonna just maximize all the gains.
500 milligrams of caffeine and she's off. Yep. Bicarb, everything.
The whole nine.
So we're doing a Q&A. Should we get into some questions?
I think we should, yeah.
Yeah, we've got some quick fire ones, some reflective ones to start. So we're going to rate our running year out of 10. Who's going first? Dan?
Go on, Dan.
How was your year?
I think it's a 7. I think I've been the fittest I've ever been multiple times and not quite got to show that in a race. I guess I PB'd over a half marathon. So I ran my first and second quickest half marathons and my second quickest marathon. So yeah, 7 probably, I'd say.
I'd say that's a pretty solid.
It was a solid year.
Solid score, yeah.
Yeah, it's solid, but you always want a bit more, don't you? So I just would have made, if I'd gone and run what I thought I could have invented, it'd have been a 10, but didn't quite do that. So I think 7's all right.
Take a 7.
Yeah.
Take a 7. Do you want to go, Owen?
Yeah, I reckon probably a 9. Like
a 9.
That's a big score.
Because like Barry 40 went pretty much as well as it could. Mm-hmm. Like that. So I was happy with that. The 100k didn't go as well, obviously, as it could have done, but I think that was a hard turnaround. And I do feel like I learned like a lot from that. So I do really hope I can do it again. Because learned a lot from it. And like frustrating outcome, but like, thing I'll remember for the rest of my life, like running for Wales. Like
Yeah.
I've got the vest like on a hanger, sort of thing. Like, don't know.
You haven't framed it yet. You haven't framed
I
it.
need to. I didn't know if I'd need it again. Here's Dan's GB one. If anyone's watching,
Oh.
I will do that at some point. Yeah, that's like I've got the bib. I had 2 bibs, so I've got the bibs kept as well. And then what else? And then I guess there's someone with like enjoyed running. Got back into it really well, enjoyed running, had a really good marathon block, ran a half PB, ran a marathon PB, and like just really, really enjoyed running for like 6 months, which
That's
like
worth,
6 months in a row.
At least that's worth a couple of points in itself.
Yeah. So I was like compared to other years, I think it's like probably the best year of running I've had. So I'm like pretty happy. I'm pretty happy, and to the point where I'm like, oh, don't want to start 2026. It starts over again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to top
I know, yeah.
Go on, then, Jem. What are you giving it?
I think probably an 8 out of 10. I definitely had a few races that were a flop, which I wish I executed a bit better. But I also ran a road 5k PB, a 10k PB, a half marathon PB, and I debuted in a marathon.
PB?
PB. And then I ran for Great Britain at the European Road Running Champ. So I can't really want much more than that. There was definitely a couple of races I wish.
Welsh Shortcomers record as well, right, for the 5k?
In the 5k. So I'll take that. I think like top 5 on the Welsh all-time list in all road distances now, or something similar to that. Maybe top 6. So we'll take it. And another one was that I really wanted to enjoy running again this year, and I really enjoyed the marathon block. I had so much fun doing it. So that's a point as well.
So that's pretty good. And then, so I guess from that, like best race, you keep going, Jen.
Can I say 2?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put my top one first. That was definitely the marathon. Just because it was like such a brand new experience. Honestly, I'd never been so terrified about doing something ever, and the fact that I actually completed it, I did it all right. Perhaps like fell slightly short of what I really wanted to get out of it, but kind of on reflection, think I did pretty good job for a debut. And like said, I wanted to run a marathon, trained for it, and made the start line all on my first attempt, and finished, which I don't think like everyone manages to do. So actually executing that, I think, was a big achievement in itself. And my top, but maybe slightly just below the marathon was my road 5k, because that was just off like just basically threshold training, did absolutely nothing else, and really surprised myself running 15:29. So yeah, those are my top ones for the year.
What about you, Dan?
It depends how you want to go on, like best race or most enjoyable race, I think. In terms of like, I think I really liked Cardiff Half this year. I really enjoyed it. It's just a great race anyway, and I always feel like it was the race I got the most right in terms of pacing, got everything out of myself, and ran what I think was worth a PB considering the conditions, which was like in the aftermath of that storm. It was still super windy, and it's just not quite. It's not as flat as Barcelona. Let's put it that way. So probably Cardiff Half. Valencia was. I enjoyed the whole weekend of Valencia. That was fantastic and a great time. But the race was just a bit, like I said last time, didn't I? It was just I was in the context. I was in the mindset that 5k in, I knew it wasn't going to be a great day, and then it was just getting through another 37k of quite hard running, and it was. I didn't necessarily enjoy it. I'm sort of satisfied with the outcome, but Cardiff Half, I was super happy with. So Cardiff Half, yeah.
Owain?
It's tough between I'd probably say Valencia. Just like the whole race experience. Like I think maybe race execution, Stroud was a bit better. Stroud half, but like in terms of whole race experience, like Valencia, like it's like just big city marathon. Like maybe the days before aren't the nicest nicest of times, but no, I'd say and just like just the feeling after, like the feeling of satisfaction, like that sort of, at least for the rest of the day, if not like the next day after you execute a good marathon, that's pretty good. Like the vibes in that Irish bar,
they were high.
Were good. Yeah, it helped that pretty much everyone there had a good race as well. Like, that was there was lots of other stuff going on in that Irish bar, but that was a good good experience. I think those two. I mean, like complete opposite end, but like some of the little like trail races, I've had a couple where like it's just been like enjoyable in terms of like with where a race where you go uphill, like at the start, like it's very easy to get wrong. So when it goes right, it's quite satisfying as well. So like Tinton Trot was enjoyable, where I just felt in control, and like I think on that one, I think I wasn't actually like looking at heart rate, but just like paced like 15-20 minute climb perfectly, and it just felt like I was just running really strong the whole way through, which is quite nice as well. Like that brings in like a bit of technical stuff, but and also like then like winning a couple of bottles of beer at the end is nice as well. But no, I'd say overall, it's going to be Valencia in terms of overall, in terms of like race execution, Stroud. My two, I think. Yeah. And then
Nice.
mistaken or thing to learn from.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
I think my biggest mistake this year was thinking that I could translate my road 5K onto the track a week later, having not stepped on a track for a year or put on a pair of spikes, to then go and try and lead the British champs, because we kind of thought if we're going there, we may as well give it a good bash, and it completely backfired on me. I think that was probably the biggest thing I learned from this year. It also confirmed that I wanted to run a marathon and wanted to leave the track alone pretty much for the rest of my life too. So had a good
never again. Again.
I was like, this has definitely confirmed my decision. But
you haven't even trained on one, have you? Have you even trained on one?
Hadn't touched the track for a year. I put a pair of spikes on the day before. All things you shouldn't do. But because I'd run on the track for like the last 18 years of my life, I thought I might be all right. It was not to be. It was really.
You haven't run on a track since that race either, have you?
No, I have not been on a track since. It's traumatized me too much.
Oh, Ironman, go on. What's your mistake? Things to learn from.
Can I say where knows Mizuno's for the 100K? I think it was rushing back into things after Barry 40 because of that 100K. Like I should have. I know it's something I've definitely then applied for myself, and with like the athletes I coach when they do things like marathons, it's like just really like hammering to be patient, like immediately after. Like don't go and run the next day. Like take a few days and then take another 2 or 3 days after that. Because then actually 2 weeks down the line, you'll feel better rather than like running because you think you're going to lose all of your fitness. And then just feeling rubbish like 3 to 10 weeks later. I think that would be the main one. You be patient and then like actually really commit to getting back into training versus sort of half-assing it somewhere in the middle. I think would probably be that would be the mistake and thing to learn from, I think. Yeah, for me.
Nice. I think I've got 3 things to learn from / mistakes. First one I've talked about already is definitely like just more like along the lines of what you said there, Owen, like not being a bit afraid to deviate from the plan. And if you need to take extra time to recover, do that. And like jumping back in when I'd been ill And I was like, right, I need to catch up. I'm going to have a massive weekend and do 70K with like big long run and big, big road session, and then just put myself in a hole again. So I'm pretty good at that, and I'm certainly better than I used to be. But it is one of the things that is hard to do when you're coaching yourself, is just be able to take one step back and look at the bigger picture and go, do I really need to do this today? Or actually, do I just need to give it 24 hours? And sometimes I feel a little bit forced into these decisions just because of time availability. And normally I just have more time available on a Tuesday and Friday to do my sessions. And so I will try and make it as, I will try and keep that structure as much as I can, because it just works for family life and stuff. Like trying to push a Friday to a Saturday is often quite difficult, or I feel it's difficult because I've got to go to Jemima. I know we've got these plans for Saturday, but can I go out and train for 2 hours? Which I can do, but I don't really like doing that. I don't want to do that. So that's one. Second was choosing what shoe I was going to wear more than like 10 days out from a marathon. I would quite like to know, so I can actually train in it and get comfortable with it and use it. If I could start the block knowing, right, this is the shoe I'm going to wear, that would take some of the stress out of quickly trying to get in the lab like 10 days out to know what shoe I'm going to wear, and then actually only do like a couple of training sessions in it. And I think it all worked out. Like the shoe I ended up with was great. I think I had no complaints about the skies at all, but it's just unnecessary stress that I didn't need. And then the last one is actually just racing a bit more, I think, because I only properly raced 8 times this year. And I think the whole summer I just sort of faffed around doing not very much. I did loads of training, but I felt like I probably could have made more out of that. And there were times where I was really fit but didn't race. And
it's hard in the summer as well, because there's not as many like road racing opportunities. So unless you want to get on the track, spike up for a 3K.
Yeah, I would like to do that. I was going to do that, weren't I? I was planning on doing it. It just didn't materialize. But I think just because I love racing, I do really enjoy racing, and I think in the first half of the year I'd only managed to do Welsh cross country champs and Barcelona half, and then I didn't race until Castles, which was that June.
Yeah. You did have so in 6
months I did 2 races plus I did have an injury. I would have done London obviously, but so just that's my 3. Try and race a bit more, which is normally I'm giving people the opposite advice: race less, because they just race all the time and never actually do any training, or just bounce from one race for the next. But I think I'd like to race more because I do enjoy racing, and that is sort of the point, I feel.
Yeah.
I think the 3 of us, like on average, race a lot less than most people, though. Like across the 13, 14 weeks of the Valencia series, like what Dan, you did Cardiff half.
Yeah.
Did you do anything else? You did Great North Run at the start, right, Jen?
Run. Yeah, and then, at the very start.
And then that was it. And then I did Stroud. So, like, including Valencia, we did 6 races between 3 runners in 13 weeks. Like, whereas there's people that in their marathon block would race that much. And like, if we're being honest as well, there's a lot of people where like they would go do park run and call it a tempo, but it's actually a race effort. So there's, and they're like, they're up and about and they're as nervous for that as a race.
Yeah. I think that's quite an interesting discussion itself, because one of the things Dave said to me at the beginning of this year was you've got to pick 2-3 races you really want to do well in, and then accept that either we don't race between them, or if we do, they're going to be crap, which is fine. I don't mind that, but I come definitely from like if you look at my Power 10 last year or the year before, I probably did like 30 races. So it's like, for me, it's a completely different approach, and I haven't hated it. And I even kind of looking towards like Rotterdam, my agent asked me, he's like, "Oh, so you're going to want to like a 10K or a half to kind of to bridge the gap?" And I was like, I honestly don't know if I would. Like, I think I'd rather just do the training. But maybe that's because I've come from like racing so often in the past that actually it's like quite nice to have like one key goal, and then I can really focus and like get the training in. I think it's quite an interesting like conversation.
Yeah, we got a question on it, I think, in a bit.
We'll save
About the end of the
discussion
year, yeah.
for that then.
I was just looking through my Power of 10 to look at the races. Like, what did I do the year before? I did 5 marathons last year.
There was
that also wouldn't be advisable, surely.
Yeah. Well, like
there was
a couple of them were trading runs / prize money expeditions, but I did 2:27 at Llanelli, and then 2:23 at Newport. And a week later, I did 2:18 at Belfast. Then I paced Philly round Berlin in 2:25. And then I ran Valencia in 2:12:59. So
it worked.
It worked. I should have done more marathons. Maybe that was it. I only managed 1 this year. So plus, obviously, the Newport Canal Marathon, which or the Newport Canal 40K, which I did.
40K.
Yeah, basically a marathon.
What was everyone's like podcast highlight?
Well, I showed this question to Dave earlier, and he said I had to say the episode that he was on.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that.
I really like chatting to Rich Blagrove. I think that was one of my highlights. It was just fun. The whole Road 2 series I really enjoyed. That was really good. In fact, it's going to be a highlight for the last 12 weeks. Yeah.
There's slightly less stress when you know the other 2 people coming on, isn't there? And you're not, yeah. That helps.
You can spread the load out. If your brain's not working for 5 minutes, just go, Jen, come on, cover us here. What about you, Owain?
Yeah, like chatting to Rich was nice. I reckon some of the early interviews, because like we hadn't done anything like that before. Like I always think the Andy Sparks interview about bicarb, I really enjoyed that. I think, that was a nice chat. Andy's really nice. Like it felt like we got a nice mix there of sort of everything, which was good. I'd say that. And then the Road 2 was good as well. Enjoyed that. Like a bit more relaxed, as you say. And then one last quick fire as well. I guess I'll keep going. Go back and listen to episode. For like if people haven't listened to some of the, I say older ones, it's like 6 months old. I think the sports bras episode was really good in terms of like covering talking points that like maybe don't get covered much, or it's like hard to come out and research, but then also like once you add in like the fashion industry and like people trying to make money, you maybe lose some of the facts. So that was with Dr. Nicola Renwick back in September, as if it was months ago.
That feels like months ago.
I know, a long time ago. I would say actually also, do you know what, podcast highlight, or like highlight. Just the moment where Dan messaged me and was like, "Do you want to chat to Alistair Brownlee?" And I was like, "Yeah, that would be really sick." That was good, and he was a good chat as well. Enjoy chatting to Alistair. Like just like someone you've grew up watching, just this absolute. I've said it so many times, like monster, right? Like. So I think I said when we recorded, like, just watch the videos of him, like, just shouting at the other people in the race sort of thing to do some work on the bike, and then he just blows them away. That was really cool as well.
Yeah. The podcast I think that people should go back and listen to, which the numbers haven't been great on, but I think I just found it really interesting, was the female physiology one with Dr. Emma Ross. Yeah. And I'd say half of it was about female physiology, but she also was head of physiology at the English Institute for Sport, now UKSI. And that insight was just really interesting. I think someone who's been there over 2 Olympic cycles, I think, governing like sport physiology support for every team going to the Olympics that was quite a rare insight, I think, and really fascinating to hear. And just a really good communicator as well as the female physiology stuff as well. She's really good at communicating that, and now works for the Well HQ, which is basically an advocacy group, right? That's like for female sport. So I really enjoyed that one. Jake Barraclough, I enjoyed that too. Like that's first time I've actually spoken to him, and he's just entertaining, isn't he? And a good listen. Even if he's off the wall nuts, he's I enjoyed chatting to him.
I was sad that he didn't have the race he wanted in Valencia, because I do just like I like, obviously, like we chatted to him, and then like the YouTube like you get the impression of someone from YouTube, which like obviously maybe isn't them in reality, but like I do really like the content he puts out, and it's just like unique and interesting. Also, it's nice that it feels like he does his training and then figures out the YouTube, which I don't think a lot of YouTubers actually do. I think the YouTube comes first.
Yeah.
But
having spoken to him off air and met him in person now in Valencia, I think it's not an act. That is Jake Barraclough. When you see on YouTube is what he's like in real life, which is nice, because I think some people are not like that. These YouTubers, influencers, whatever. And it's a different approach. I like, but he's testing the limits of what people can do and just doing something a bit different and not just following exactly the same. I still think he's sometimes training like a bit of a moron, but at least he's given it a go. And I wish he had. He obviously just had a really bad day because he ended up DNFing, and saw his YouTube video debrief, and he was not in a good way, was he?
No.
Not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
Obviously, I wanted to beat him, but I'd have preferred him to still have a good race, and I'd have beaten him rather than him getting him carried off to the medical tent or whatever.
How about you, Jen?
I think like the one I've listened to twice is Rich's one, just because like it's actually helped like aid me in planning programming what my gym sessions look like, the order in which exercises are put, what I should be doing, which is something like I don't really have any, like I don't have a wealth of knowledge on it, and I don't have any support in order to do it. It's all kind of winging it. So it's actually really good to have like something to go and listen to that helps kind of direct me to kind of what I need to do, because I do see like gym as a really important part of being a good runner. He's should have a role in my program.
He's normally commenting on your gym uploads, isn't he?
Yeah, he sent me a message yesterday on my like Instagram story. He's like, "You're looking strong," or like something like "You're strong, Jen," or something like that. I'm like having the worst time of my life in the gym on a Saturday night.
I'd say that episode and his book is really good.
I haven't read his book, so maybe that's the next thing. I'm not a big reader.
I've lent it to Owen, so I lend it to you next, Jen. If you like.
I don't have it anymore. I think I gave it back.
I've got it back. Yeah, I got it back.
Okay, yeah.
I'll come and collect it somewhere. At some point. I'll give it a read. No, that would be good. I enjoyed listening to Phil Sesman's episode as well. Yeah. Just like his like honesty about his like performance in London, like his approach to training, and obviously then to see what he's done off the back of it too. I think that's really interesting. Just there's so many different ways to get to an end result in running. So yeah, I found that one interesting.
Yeah, go back and listen if you haven't.
Yeah.
Should we do some listener questions?
Yeah, because we've done half an hour on quick fire questions here. So
Joe, actually, sorry, we have one more. We've missed one. Favorite SOAR kit of the year, and as always, thank you SOAR for sponsoring us. We all used the kit in Valencia, didn't we? Quickly, what's everyone's favorite bit of SOAR kit?
I really liked my New York Marathon crop top. That was just class, and it looks great in the pics. It was so comfy. Like obviously, I didn't even really feel like I was wearing it because it's like doesn't weigh anything. I just loved it. It was really cool.
Yeah, you got a lot of compliments on it, didn't you? Jemima was very jealous of it. My favorite is that SOAR /Ultra men's trail race shorts, the half tights. I call them like cargo tights. You can just hold so much in it. And I wore it for the shakeout run we did, and because I could tie a jacket into the elastic at the back, and I was doing 30-second strides at sub 3-minute K pace. This jacket is just not moving anywhere. I've got my phone in there. I've got gels in there. Nothing's moving around. They're just super comfy. I didn't race in them because there's probably, it's just, you can distribute the gels a little bit better, I think, in the marathon half tights, but they are for just training day to day. And if I was going to do a trail race, especially like a 50K or something like that, I'd be wearing them. I just think they're super, super good and just comfortable.
Yeah, I was wearing mine there as well because like have the room keys, have your card, I normally wouldn't take my phone, but I took my phone because we were coordinating meeting with people. It was ideal for that. I would say as well, like the long sleeve tech tee, like I really like that. It's just a really nice fit. Like really nice, like comfy. Like especially this time of the year, I really like long sleeve tops. So long sleeve tech tee as well is my pick. But thank you always, Saw, for sponsoring us because we do love some nice kit, and definitely check them out. If you got any Christmas money, then spend it with Saw, I reckon.
Hey, I've got 60 quid to use now. I've got my cash my 21 days. 60 quid or 50 quid? I can't remember what it is.
60 for the solstice. That'll probably still be open when this drops. So
if you've done your 21 hours up until the 21st of December, then go cash that in.
Yeah, definitely worth doing. I think just because I'm going to pick the first question just because we talked about it briefly. This is from James Reeder. He says he's racing Amsterdam. I think there'll be a few of us there. How would we, as in like us three, approach? Well, sorry, I've changed James's question slightly. I think he said how would he best set up the year to perform best in Amsterdam? But linking it to an episode we did, I've changed it to how would we approach our performance planning to maximize performance in October 2026. And performance planning was like a whole episode we did about tailoring your performance, tailoring your training and the races you enter at a goal performance. So rather than, like we said, every 2 weeks picking a different race and like not really ever progressing.
Yeah.
Like you pick your goal race and then everything else is how does this fit around performing best at that race. So I don't know. Do either of you want to take this? Do you have any thoughts about like what you would do between now and October to have sort of your best race?
I think it's sort of depends upon what you've identified as what you're good at and what you're not so good at.
Yeah.
For me, I'd like to go back and try and run some faster 5Ks and 10Ks because for me, I think now that is becoming my limiter. I think I can still run faster over 5K and 10K and probably faster than I've got on my power of 10. But I'm already converting very well from the 10K to the half marathon to the marathon. So I would like to be able to demonstrate that I can run faster those shorter distances. If it was Jen, I'd go, you doesn't need that. Your 5K is already so much better than your marathon.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but
I need to develop my thresholds as much as I can for then like doing specific marathon work. But you, Dan, I think like you start at the race and then you work backwards and look at the year in that direction. That's how I always do it.
And like if you've got physiology testing, when you can be even more specific and go, actually, is it my VO2 max, my economy, my thresholds? I mean, one of the reasons why I'm not very good at the shorter stuff is because my economy just gets progressively worse as I start running faster. Although my VO2 max is really good. But it's also just, I always go back to just trying to be consistent, and you get fitter by doing more training. So if you can allow yourself to have a whole year basically to progressively just increase your training load, that's going to make you a better athlete. So don't go chasing things that are going to compromise your ability to be consistent and just put good solid months together.
Yeah. That's the I think you just approach your training and your races and you say, okay, how does this benefit the goal race. And I think once you view it through that lens, you then if you view it through that lens and really like believe it, or I don't know, really
You got to
buy
buy
into
into
that.
it, haven't you?
Yeah. Once you do that, and then you see what other people are doing, and then like they're like they do a week and a half of training, and then they've got a race, so they like slightly ease off, and then they do the race, and then they miss a long run because they've done a race on I think over the summer, like where like especially in Cardiff, there was a lot of races in a few weeks, wasn't there? And seeing people do all of those, but then they also had like a big goal race apparently, and it's like, but you haven't done a long run in like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, how does any of this benefit that like actual goal? But and it's difficult because it means you don't do as many races maybe as you want to, but I think like you can't have your cake and eat it, can you?
Or it's like, if you are doing these other races, you've got to accept that they're probably not going to be very good. And like how that sits within a training week. Okay, then maybe replace like a more high quality session with a race, but there's not really much of a taper into it, and like that's the way it's going to be. So I think it's like what your expectations are throughout the year as well on everything else you're doing in the lead up to that race.
Yeah. Either of you want to pick a question?
I'm going to go for one which is from one of my athletes I coach, Richard Parazam.
That's a good one.
Yeah. For athletes aiming to win world-class marathons or any high-class race, should they be running to heart rate and effort, sort of like how we've advocated, and trying to run consistent splits, or B, going to the front and staying there and surging, and just trying to be in the mix, I guess, and really just that's I mean, often you look at London, how it's been one of the last few years is everyone goes out too hard, and the one who fades the least is the one who wins. So I guess his argument is, what should you be doing if you are someone who's actually trying to win like a marathon major or one of the top marathons? I mean, I think that it's tricky, isn't it? I do think a lot of people in those fields are obviously not pacing it very well. Like London, Berlin, Valencia, all the last, just because I know what the results and outcomes were from those races this year, all of them have been positive splits, even for the winner. Or the winner is the only one who sort of hangs on, maybe just about runs an even split, and everyone else is just out the back door. But there's examples of people who have come through. Like I think it was Bekele in Valencia last year came third or something like that, and he ran a more even paced race and wasn't in that front group through halfway, and he was rewarded for that. It's tricky because there's so many bonuses, aren't there? Time bonuses for running really fast times, and I think there's so many unbelievable performances that people get tricked into this idea that you can actually, I can go run 201. Of course I can. Well, actually, you're probably not. You're probably a 203 guy, but I'm just going to give it a go. I guess London last year was when Emil Carrès ran really well, wasn't it? Did he come third or fourth?
Third or fourth? Yeah, fourth, I think.
And again, like Mohammed ran really well as well. And it was the classic, they went into the bridge and they were something like 8th or 9th. And you lose all TV coverage because you can't see anything down there, no signal. And this is about 5K to go, isn't it?
5K to go, yeah.
I'm remembering back to my mini marathon days.
Yeah.
It's about 5K to go.
Yeah.
And they came out and they're suddenly like in the top 5 or 6. What happened? They all just dropped out because they've completely emptied the well and done a Jake Barraclough and can't even make it to the finish. I think people are too aggressive and need to run their own race a bit more. And obviously it helps if you are in a pack, and like there's probably a small drafting effect. Psychologically it's easier, but you're better off running by yourself and not having to be forced to have a massive positive split. Is my take.
I also think like it depends at what point in the race that's happening as well. I think if you're gunning for the win and you're past halfway and you've been in a group and there's a move made, like you've almost got to at some point be brave enough to cover that as well, because if the guy who has made the move is strong enough, like, then you're gone and you've got no chance of kind of getting him back either. But I think that really does vary on like what sort of athlete you are as well.
Yeah, but you just can't outrun your physiology. If you're going out and you run the first 10K at half marathon race pace, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. And some of these athletes must know, and I don't know if they haven't got a good plan going into it, or they're just not disciplined when they run the race. But there are a lot of elite athletes who just completely ruin their race day by pacing it badly.
There's probably like being a carrot dangled at some point in conversations beforehand with like a massive bonus if you go out at this pace and you manage to run X time, which then all physiology goes out the window at that point, doesn't it? They're just seeing dollar signs and running as hard as they can.
Yeah, I mean there are massive incentives, aren't there? So I can see why you can be a bit more aggressive, but you can be more aggressive and come out with no money, or you can play a bit safer and come back with a solid paycheck if you're in the top 10 of a marathon major. So I don't know, it's tricky. It depends upon the motivation of the athlete, doesn't it? What they're trying to get out of it, what their sponsors want, etc. Because in like cycling, you have this whole the breakaway almost never wins, do they? But the sponsors love it because they get so much media coverage. I don't think that's quite the same in running, but you could see why it might be good to have someone out the front of a marathon major if you were not a Nike, Adidas, Asics athlete, someone who was a bit more up and coming, just for the coverage.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you reckon, Owain?
Yeah, like you say, you can't outrun your physiology, can you? So I think it's almost like if you took out marathons from the question, there's a lot more scope to maybe like just do different things. And I was going to say, like, if you take marathons out of the question, like Jen, when you did the track champs, like you went to the front and slowed the race down, didn't you? Because you knew if it was just fast, then like I think you said like it was just going to be a rubbish experience if it was fast. So you just went to the front and slowed it down for as long as possible.
Well, I actually tried to speed it up, but I had no success.
so like there's a bit more, there's more scope, isn't there? Whereas marathons, it's just like really, like you just should actually probably just run the most efficient A to B and see what the result is. But obviously that doesn't happen. And I think that.
I think like if you listen to the interviews of a lot of people who win or medal in a major marathon, the first thing they kind of talk about is like remaining patient, remaining patient, listening to their body for the first half, like making sure they're not overdoing it in order to then perform and like attack in the second half. And I think that's the biggest thing about marathons, or the thing that most people, like a lot of people have said to me, is that it is about being patient and it's knowing kind of what that looks and feels like.
Yeah, I guess the other caveat is when it's a championship marathon or a marathon major, you're going to have different profiles of athlete in there as well. So there are going to be some who are going to be better at a time trial marathon. They've got super thresholds, but actually they're probably someone who's more like my profile, and they convert really well from a 10K to the marathon. And so if it came down to a race over a mile to go, you wouldn't back them. So they probably want it to be as hard a marathon as you can. Whereas if you've got someone they've come, a Joshua Chepta guy, you don't want him to be you don't want him with you in a slow marathon where they're going out at 2:10 pace and the last 5K is going to be super, super quick. You just don't want him around. So then that could play into your tactics, and that you might want to make it a harder or slower race depending upon what your strengths and weaknesses are. But even so, you've still got it. You don't want to go out too hard, regardless of who you are in that situation.
Yeah. Surging has less benefit, doesn't it? Like the longer the race gets.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. Right, who's picking the next one?
Shall I do it?
Yeah.
This is from CR Dunn on Instagram. The question was, does your training change much for a half marathon compared to a marathon? I can start with that because I think my training's definitely changed. I think like the marathon sits like almost like in an entirely different place to like half marathon and down. Like I would say like my half marathon, and my 10K training looks very similar, but my marathon training was like wildly different in the way that like my week was shaped, like the structure of the week, the length and the intensity of the sessions. There was definitely like the long run was turned into a session, and then I had one of a session within that week. So like the actual days of hard running changed from maybe like two sessions days and like a steadier sort of long run to like one session in the week and then like a long run session, with a much bigger emphasis on kind of either like marathon effort or like running at around that first threshold and trying to build and develop that durability. Whereas like for a half marathon, I'm definitely training closer to like a 10K runner and doing a lot more around that sort of second threshold and trying to push that up. With rep lengths probably no longer than like 2 miles in length. Whereas for a marathon, like it's like 2 hours 15 minutes of continuous running with like a large chunk of that in the back end at like a relatively high intensity.
I think I'd probably still keep some of the marathon sessions in, just for like at least me personally. Partly because I enjoy them, and yeah, I think that you're still between LT1 and LT2, so I think it's still beneficial. But yeah, like I'd agree. Like I'd probably spend more weeks doing like Tuesday Friday sessions and then just an easier long run. But I would probably add in more like long run sessions than like, although they would be in there, I wouldn't just not do them. And yeah, like you say, probably, like, to be honest, everything is probably at or around LT2, but then you change the rep length a bit between between Tuesday and Friday. Like one of them, maybe 8 minutes and less, and the other one it's like up to 15 minutes sort of thing. Yeah, would be my approach. But like you're still just trying to accumulate lots of time between LT1 and LT2, so and then running as many miles as you can. I think in that regard it's fairly similar, but it's then how you divide up your intensity.
One thing I would say is I probably would see like a little bit more time spent running above my LT2, like close to that sort of 10K pace. Probably like still not a very high percentage, but more than like the 0.6% of the volume from the marathon block. Maybe like a little bit more, just to kind of touch faster than half marathon pace. So when it comes to actually running the half, it doesn't feel like you're flat out sprinting.
Yeah, I think I'm a sort of mix of the two of you, in that I would I do like some big sessions in there still, and I do feel like I am the fittest when I am when I'm prepared to run a PB marathon. I'm convinced I'm in half marathon shape as well. But then I've also found that I've just felt a bit mechanically bad running at half marathon pace if I haven't done some stuff a bit faster than it. Like Barcelona half, running 3-minute Ks felt quite hard, even though my cardiovascularly I was fine. So I think that is, including a little bit more. I think it's just shifting the emphasis slightly, in that you need a little bit more faster stuff, not crazy fast, like 10K pace, like you said, Jen, but also you probably don't need to be doing, like for me, 40K long runs if I'm preparing for a half marathon.
Yeah.
Like 40K at 3:30 a K pace probably isn't that specific to a half marathon, but actually going and doing a K on, K off for 30K is probably quite specific. The other caveat I would say is it depends upon like what performance level you're at, because if you're running a half marathon in an hour 45, that is quite different to running a half marathon in an hour and 5 in terms of like what you're training for. Like maybe if you are a slightly slower half marathon runner, your training does look more like you're preparing for a marathon. Whereas if you are, Joshua Cheptegei, these people who are going and running 56 minutes for a half marathon, well, that's probably going to look closer to 10K training than it is for marathon training, just because the speeds are so high.
Yeah, and I was gonna say like perhaps like the recovery from some of the harder sessions for a half marathon would require more time than a marathon, but I'm not entirely sure. Like, I actually agree at that point because the duration of a marathon session is a lot longer. So I think
Yeah.
I'm going to retract that.
I think yeah, it's more you're less worried about durability and more
Yeah,
worried about just getting those thresholds in a really good place. And so I do think the emphasis shifts a little bit more to stuff between LT1 and LT2 and less about like sub LT1 stuff where doing your hour steady and then doing an hour progressive and like those sort of sessions that you were doing, Jen, I
yeah,
probably wouldn't be doing that sort of stuff
wouldn't
for a
do it.
half.
Yeah,
But doing some stuff where you're running at marathon pace, I think is still going to help support your half marathon time.
yeah.
Next question. Should I pick one?
Go on.
Can I just pick all? Should we just do all of the baths ones? Because there was
Yeah, I was
a
sort of
few.
leaving all of them for you, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's two questions within this. There's Sam asked a question specifically about the study, which I can answer quick. So this is on the episode of Elliot Jenkins about hot baths. He just asked, was the training controlled through the 5 weeks for the control and the bath condition? Yeah, he basically wondered like if the training impacted the result, and very quickly the training was matched between them. So we were sending Elliot our training data each week and time in zones, and we were trying to get it pretty close to matching up. So where like one of the guys did a race partway through his control, so Elliot said we need to do something similar during the bath condition. Yeah, so we were trying to keep the hours and the intensity distribution the same across the conditions, so that was matched.
Yeah. Just to add to that, it wasn't prescribed training, but he was quantifying how much time we were spending in the different training zones, and the statistical analysis saw there was no difference in total training time or time, the intensity distribution of the training. So they didn't match it or control it, but they, in a strict sense, but there was no difference between the control and the intervention groups.
Yeah, and he was fairly mindful in terms of when people started. Like if someone was going to start and they were going to do like a big race and then have a few weeks off, he would have said to them, "No, wait until you're like consistently training again." Because if you do that for one condition, like Sam's saying, if you do that for one condition and don't do it for the other, it's not particularly it's not a good crossover design at that point. So that was controlled. I think he categorized it as like TRIMP in the write up. And then there was a bunch of questions. There was Matt and then also Tamara Beach just asked the minimum dose of heat exposure that's actually worth doing per week. And then Martin asked about replacing baths with saunas. So I think for both of those, there's no like clear, obvious research-led answer. Like no one's done the equivalent study with saunas instead of hot baths, and no one, there's only this study with 45 minutes 5 times a week for the minimum dose. I think practically, and like this is where then the applied approach and applied like lessons come in. You can obviously do less. Like Jen, you were doing a lot less.
Yeah.
Like starting, I think you can do a lot less to get a benefit. So like 20-30 minutes. I think also, the study found like changes across 5 weeks, but realistically, you probably want to do it longer than that because that 5 weeks was really intense. And I don't think I could have done the same amount of training I did when I wasn't doing it, like before Valencia. So if you're doing that much hot water immersion, it's going to take away from your other training. Whereas if you do a bit less and just do it for a lot longer, I think you end up at the same end result. So I think like 20 to 30 minutes is reasonable. And I think it's one where start doing like less than you maybe think or maybe want to do and just gradually build up. Like the same with strength training. You don't go in and do an hour.
2 hours in the gym.
Yeah, or more. Yeah, you build up to it and you take the approach of this isn't going to benefit me in a month's time, but in 12 months' time it might, is how I'd approach it in terms of the minimum dose. And just fitting it around your life. Like if you can do 3 times a week for half an hour, do that and then start to build it more once that's established.
I think there's probably a minimum frequency. I think the
Yeah.
frequency is probably more important than the duration of the heat exposure. I think 3, you wouldn't want to do it less than 3 times. I don't think you'd see much response if you're doing it twice a week or once a week. Once a week, I don't think it would do anything. Just like an exposure to anything once a week is probably not enough to do very much, whether it's gym or intensity or what. So I would be looking for at least 3 or 4 times a week. But I agree that you probably don't necessarily need 45 minutes straight off the bat to get things going.
I think I like, and we discussed this when we were running today, right, Jen? Like I think it varies based on the time of the year as well. Like, yeah, maybe at the moment in the Northern Hemisphere where it's cold, like, yeah, 3 or 4 times a week. I think then in the summer, if you end up doing like 3 or 4 of your runs in like late afternoon, early evening where it's really hot, you maybe need it slightly less because you're getting quite a big heat dose. Like I always think like in the summer, if I'm doing a session in the garage on the treadmill, even at 6:30 in the morning, it's ridiculously hot in there. So I'm getting a heat stimulus anyway. Like I'm really, really increasing my sweat rate just from that. And I sort of notice it then for a few weeks later when it gets cooler. And that was just like twice a week of doing that. So I think it varies based on the time of the year as well. And then replacing baths with saunas, like I guess a proper sauna at like proper temperatures, you can't do 45 minutes in there. Like you would die basically. So I guess you then have to this is like where you become like your own sports science practitioner, right? And you have a limited evidence base, and you have to then like pick apart the little bits of it and like try and apply it to the situation you're in. So I think like obviously it's not clear exactly what the thing is that's driving the sort of hematological changes across the 5 weeks. Like there's obviously an element of increasing core temperature. There's an element of increasing sweat rate. They're the sort of the main, I think, factors. Then there's some there's going to be some part of like redistributing blood flow away from the kidneys, which you're still going to get in the sauna. It's just going to be a bit different. Like the heat transfer between the sauna and the bath is different. There's a lot more heat transfer in water. There's also some like hydrostatic impact in the water as well that you won't get in the sauna. But I think you, at least for me, I would be thinking, okay, I want to drive up my core temperature, and maybe like half an hour is good for that. But realistically in the sauna, that's going to be going into the sauna, coming out, and then going back in. And you just sort of probably then you're going to just be relying on the fact that over 40 minutes, you've driven up your core temperature for 30 of those minutes, and you've increased your sweat rate, and that should hopefully be doing the same things. You just have to take what is potentially happening and apply it to what you've got there, I think.
Yeah, because I think we increasingly see athletes going about heat exposure in lots of different ways, like the passive heat, active heat. You get people running on treadmills in boiler suits or around St. Moritz, like Conor Mance. And yeah, saunas, hot tubs, baths. I would reckon that they're all providing something slightly different, but it's probably more simple than it's probably just as simple as you need to get your core body temperature up for an amount of time. And then what's the most optimal way of doing it probably doesn't matter that much. It's probably just about some exposure to heat, I reckon. But again, that's my assertion rather than having the evidence behind it to say that, yeah, saunas are completely interchangeable with baths, for example.
I think like fundamentally all of the other things come off of the back of increasing your core temperature. Like your sweat rate increases, you redistribute the blood flow to your skin and away from your kidneys because your core temperature's gone up. Like that's the key part. Like you can't really do the others without driving up your core temperature. So then it's like, okay, how long do I want to drive up my core temperature for? And sort of, go from there. I think it's practical though. Like you know, like I said, like with a proper sauna, like, yeah, you really like probably can't do more than like 20 or so minutes realistically because it's 90 degrees. But then I know that there's like, you know, there's leisure centers around here where the sauna is like 70 degrees and there's people fully clothed doing like bloody press ups and singing and stuff in there. So, yeah, that one, yeah, you could probably sit in there for hours. It'd be uncomfy, but like, yeah, you could sit in there for a while. Um, so yeah, it depends on what you've got there as well, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be interesting to see what comes out of the literature over the next few years. I think, but I'm gonna start getting some heat into my training. I think it's something that I'm missing, and yeah, so I've speaking to Elliot. Something just one more thing to add in. I think.
Do you think it's more important for someone who perhaps has the ability to increase their actual mileage to focus on that first before then trying to implement heat training on top of that? It's like one step at a time. Like that's surely the heat must be like the one of the like the small 1% you can gain once you've sort of maximized everything else. But for someone who's newer to the sport, throwing in heat when you could probably run an extra day a week, like surely one's better than the other than combining the two.
I think so, but then at the same time, someone who is struggling to increase their training load because of injuries and like not being able to handle the volume, then maybe heat is a good tool to add to that. Equally, like thinking about someone who's a parent who can't go and run in the evening because their kid's in bed, but they could go and jump in a hot bath. I don't know. If you need to be in the house, but you can't be training, then that's another way of adding something that might help you run a bit faster. So I think there are, for most people, I don't think if you've got the time and the inclination, you're probably better off adding some more training. But if you are looking for extra 1% or can't add more running into your life, then heat could be a good tool. Or for someone who's someone who is time restricted, then maybe active heat could be a good way to increase their training loads and like get some heat stimulus without giving up any more time. So layered runs or running on a treadmill without any fans on and layers and stuff like that might be a way to give them more load, but without actually having more needing to find more time in their life.
I was going to say as well with the training, like I would say to someone if they're running like 4 or 5 days a week, like probably increase the frequency of the days a week that you're running. But then, like you say, if you're running 7 days a week, you just struggle to double in the evening because you got a family. That then I think it's really applicable and a really useful tool. But if you're running 5 days a week and you're saying I could run 6 or 7 days a week, or I could double, or I could do the bath on those 2 days, I'd say like I'd probably lean towards the running, and then add the bath. Because also, like we said with the dose, like you're going to need to do it the other days anyway to get any benefit. Yeah, it's like if you can only run on weekdays and you can't run on the weekends, like I don't know how useful it's going to be versus getting out and running. But yeah, hopefully that's the bath questions answered for now, I think.
Go on then,
Jen. Do you wanna pick one next?
Shall I go? I'm going for a super shoe question.
Here we go.
This one's from Dan's speciality. This one's from Paul. It's how much should you train in super shoes? If the muscular load is higher with non-super shoes, doesn't that drive additional adaptations? Could excessive use result in loss of benefits since your foot muscles become weaker, resulting in a potential loss of efficiency without super shoes, meaning you trade muscles for foam and end up the same as before?
I would just before you answer as well, I'd say David's question is similar, and it's like he asked about us using super shoes as well for the Valencia build. So we had a few like this, didn't we? Like like just using them in training and what are our thoughts? Because obviously we all do it, fairly regularly, I'd say.
I think for me, looking at the benefits in perhaps recovery after a session from wearing super shoes is a real positive. I think being able to come off a session and go out and get 2 hours of running in the day after, when training for a marathon and I'm trying to run 115 miles a week, I would take the hit on perhaps the the benefits you might get muscularly from wearing a non-carbon plated shoe over wearing a carbon plated shoe for the sessions. I also think if you look at like the week as a whole and the percentage of time running in a super shoe versus a daily trainer, I'm still doing a lot of volume and a lot of hours in a daily trainer where I'm getting all those benefits from. Perhaps not at the same like velocity, but definitely still like covering the ground in a daily shoe. I'm yeah, my shoe rotation includes literally two shoes, like a daily trainer and a carbon plated shoe, pretty much. So personally, I'm very much for kind of wearing the carbon plated shoes in training to kind of get used to that shoe for what I'm going to race in, but also recover better from the sessions, and then just all my other volume done in a daily trainer.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jen. I think if you don't, I'm spending so much time not in super shoes, but I feel that's enough to maintain the conditioning in your calves, your foot, etc. I definitely wouldn't be saying do all your runs in super shoes. I think that is when you might start to see some deconditioning. And I do wonder about people who are coming into the sport now, having never trained and done any faster running in non-super shoes. Like you and me, Jen, growing up, well, Owen as well. Like we were doing, God, I mean, I remember racing in Plimsolls, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
So like, I think as long as you're doing your easy runs in a normal daily trainer, then you're fine. I did find that at one point I was using the Invincibles for easy mileage, and when I was then racing and doing my harder sessions in super shoes, and they're so soft and so cushioned, they're basically marshmallows. I did find that, I felt like my form was getting worse and my cadence was definitely dropping, because cadence is a great way of cushioning the impact. Like you're having like less loads per stride. And if you've got massive invincible shoes on the bottom, then you don't need to cushion. You don't need to brace against that impact quite so much. So you can take lower stride rates. And I didn't necessarily feel like I was moving very well. So, and this emergence of these super trainers, aren't there? In that I'm wearing Minova Blasts for pretty much all my easy days, and I like them. And I think they're not super soft, but increasingly things are just getting softer and softer. And they haven't got a carbon fiber plate in, but they're definitely different foams to what people traditionally were running in. And maybe that will lead to different injuries and deconditioning of ankle, foot, calf, accessory muscles.
Yeah. I guess like I did a lot of sessions in super shoes, although I would say they were like a lot of the time they were Cook's old ones. So I don't know how much benefit.
Rods exposed all over the place.
Outer tearing. I did like it. Like Jen said, they allow you to run a bit more and a bit faster, which I think is beneficial. I do. Like, I mean, again, talked about it on the run today. Like I do think outside of those like sort of specific like 8 to 10 weeks, I prefer to do my long runs in something like we were saying, like a New Balance Rebel, that's slightly different to your daily shoe and maybe a bit lighter, but it's still a bit protected. I mean, I guess like going back, I loved like the Boston 9, which was, like so little foam. I love doing long runs in that. I don't know, maybe I'll try that again at some point. If I can find like an old pair of Boston 9s, I'd probably break instantly. But like I do like a slightly different shoe for long runs, and even like the early part of the marathon block. Something slightly different. I mean, actually, I think the first few like Sunday sessions we did, I was still in like joggers, and I think we both were. Yeah. I think intentionally early on we didn't put on super shoes for Sundays. But yeah, like both of you, every other day it's in joggers. We've all answered it, or you two have answered it. Like, so because we got asked by Halen our shoe rotations, we're all actually really boring. Like, we don't really have many other shoes. So like I've basically exclusively worn like New Balance More V5s for like the past 6 months,
Yeah.
and then I've had a pair of Triumph 23s as well, and then some like old Adios Pro 3s, and then Metaspeed Skies. And yeah, like we don't actually try that many joggers on, do we? So yeah,
Why change something that ain't broken is my opinion.
yeah.
Pretty
I
much.
mean,
guess
I've had go on,
I
away.
was gonna say if you had the access to them, like I would try loads of different stuff, but I sort of don't, and I think like I sort of feel like I've bought shoes online and then they haven't worked as well as I hoped enough now, where like I'm just like I know this shoe works, I'm just gonna buy 2 more pairs and just work my way through them. And actually like now I don't have like all of my easy shoes are basically cooked, so I am having to now buy some more easy shoes. But yeah, like we just I don't know, like I would, to be honest, I'd happily just buy like Nova Blast every time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even in the past where I've had access to literally any shoe from a brand, I've still only picked 2 shoes. Like literally just like a trainer and a super shoe. Because I'd rather keep it simple most of the time.
I mean, I love shoes. I do love shoes. I don't buy any non-running kit at all. All
Dan's
my
wearing his jeans from when he was like 15, but he's got 20 pairs of super shoes lined up in his room.
exactly. I rely on Jemima buying me clothes every now and again. I'll be honest. I've got to say, yeah, I'm not into clothes, but shoes I love, and running kit I'm a big fan of, especially if it's sore. But I've had 2 pairs of Nova Blasts this year. Since like February. That's been my daily mileage trainer. And I'm currently training, doing my harder sessions in the Asics Metaspeed Edge Tokyos, because they are retired race shoes and they're still feeling good. I have got a pair of Hoka Speed Goats if I ever do go on my trails, but I haven't been doing much of that recently. So normally it's just if I'm going around parkrun and it's super muddy, I might put them on when I'm pushing 9 rounds in my buggy. But I've pretty much just got 2 shoes.
Those are the 2 shoes I wear as well.
There you go.
I think this year, like at the start of the year, I had a pair of 880s as my easy shoe, and then I was like, I feel like I'm bottoming these out, so I got the 1080s, and then I felt like they died quite quick, which I think is a known thing with the 1080s, and felt like I was bottoming them out, and then I saw some Moores on like cheap, and I was like, okay, I'll try them. They've got more foam, and they felt really good. And then I was like, cool, sorted. I was sorted in like May, I think, and just stuck with those the rest of the year.
This is my shoe.
Yeah. Cool.
I would like to try the Mega Blast though. For those faster long runs. For me, I'm basically, if it's under 3:45 a K, I'll go in super shoes. If it's over, daily trainers.
I do
really. Something that's a bit like on that cusp. I think a Mega Blast is supposed to be good, isn't it?
I do really like those, like, they're not super shoes, but like the Endorphin Speed used to be that shoe as well, where it's a bit faster, and like doing your long runs in them and sessions, I think is always really nice. So yeah, I'd be tempted by them as well.
Yeah, give them a go at some point.
A lot of money.
Exactly. Well, I better pick a question then, hadn't I? Let's have a look. So Ian has asked, long runs with blocks of marathon pace versus steadier runs at like 90 to 95% of marathon pace. Like one or the other, what would you go for? And I would frame it differently. I would go, they've got different places.
Yeah.
I mean, Jen, you did lots of stuff at slower of a marathon pace, more like that 90 to 95% marathon pace. And I think that's great for adding durability. You can do longer sessions without cooking yourself. And ultimately, if you're newer to marathon training, jumping in with loads of stuff at marathon pace is a bit of an injury risk, a bit of an overtraining risk. It's easy to overcook yourself in most sort of sessions. And I did some of them as well. Like I did a couple of 40Ks, and I think I did a 35K and a 40K that 90 to 95% range. And I like that as sort of the starting point to a marathon block. But I sort of see the most specific sessions as those ones which have got marathon pace in there or marathon intensity. Like I'm normally going off of heart rate and going, right, I'm normally 160 to 165 in the first 30K of a marathon. So let's spend some time there. And those are the sessions I feel that most accurately replicate marathon day, but you can't do loads of them. And it also limits how much volume you can do. You can't do over distance work or even stuff up. I don't think you can do stuff that's much past 30, 32K without it just becoming super, super hard and recovery cost being not there.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas you can go out and do 24 miles, like 40K of stuff, which is close to marathon pace, but just a little bit back. And because intensity is not linear, like you increase the speed by 10 seconds a K, going from, like for me, like 420 to 410 a K, I won't feel it at all. But going from 320 to 310, you're going to feel that massively. So the same is true if you back off the pace a little bit. You back off the pace a bit, and it makes quite a big difference to your ability to just tolerate and absorb that load. So I think they've both got places. It just depends upon what your weakness is and where you are on the marathon block, how vulnerable you are to injuries. There's so many factors I think that go into determining what is best for you. But I think mixing it up for most people is about right. What do you say?
I agree. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think if you looked at my training block for Valencia, I did one session a week of like 20K of volume at marathon effort. And then the other one was sort of like that 90 to 97% of marathon pace. But I think for me, having never run a marathon before, that was probably more valuable than the marathon pace work to a degree, because I was on my feet for a longer period of time. I was running at an intensity that was close-ish to marathon effort. And I was kind of experiencing what that would feel like towards the back end of a marathon. And I think it helped develop sort of my durability and my massive weak link, which still is my threshold. So I think for me, they probably are quite an important part of a marathon block.
Yeah, I guess also I was thinking about this question and I was like, yeah, like those sessions were like maybe like we said, like 95% of your marathon pace, Jen. They were 100% of my marathon pace. So I still think they worked well, but yeah, you do have to be careful, I think, of how
overrunning them. I think you can overrun them.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know. I guess to be fair, we didn't do anything where it was just like an hour plus of what ended up being like my marathon pace. Yeah. Like even that like 80 minutes with the massive group of us was still a bit slower.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I sort of said in the race wrap up, like I do still feel like I did that run and felt so good, and like I'm a bit disappointed that the end result wasn't a few seconds a K faster from the race. But
that's still only 80 minutes compared to 2.5 hours. I still think there's a massive difference in that.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's just how you divide them up and not doing. I'd say not doing too much of either, because even 2.5 hours of 95% of marathon pace is a massive run. Like you've maybe left your race out there. So yeah, I think you can. It's not, you don't have to exclusively do one or the other either. You can, 1 week do like slightly longer at like 95%, and then the next week do things like the 15 on, 15 off, where the on is like slightly above marathon pace and the off is below.
Slightly below. Yeah.
I'd say like it's slightly above and below that. That was like 10 seconds either way. So like there's loads of ways to do it as well. It's not a one size sort of thing, or picking one side and sticking to it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A couple more questions, do you reckon?
Yeah, we've got a few more good ones to work through, I think.
Yeah, there was a couple for Jen from someone called Rachel. I wonder who that is. This first one, I'm going to ask both, but I'll ask them one at a time.
Okay.
do you get away with more deviations from the training plan because the coach is your husband and in the brackets asking for a friend? I don't know who that might be.
So I showed this question to Dave earlier, and I actually do agree with him. I think I have less deviation from the plan because he is my husband compared to when I was previously coached by Chris. Just because he will threaten to stop coaching me if I don't like adhere to the training. But he also like stops and makes me think about it in that moment rather than like upon reflection. And I think for me that's really valuable. He's like, well, if you're doing this today and you're going to go and execute it wrongly, think about what you're trying to achieve next week or what the goal is in 2 weeks. We're trying to get to this point. So I think having those conversations has actually allowed me to perhaps stay on track a little bit more, rather than kind of look at the plan and think, I'd rather run a bit quicker than that, go out and do it, and then report back saying I felt great, but then like perhaps not building the exact thing we're looking for in that moment.
I guess there's a couple of things at play, right? Like there is that you have a constant line of communication open, or multiple lines. You have face to face and like messaging and like what's written on the plan. Whereas like although you see Chris, but a lot of the time it is remote. So there's first of all like that element, and then also like I guess for other people listening, you maybe feel like, oh, I'm bothering my coach too much. Whereas like you can talk to Dave and you're not bothering him, which helps.
He never gets an hour off.
And then I think you're more willing to be honest, as in like you're like when Rachel asked this. Obviously, I don't know who Rachel is, but when she asked this, I said like Jen will basically tell Dave to fuck off, sort of thing, if she wants to. Like, whereas you're not going to say that to Chris.
No.
Yeah, so and that goes both ways in terms of like if you think the session's too big or if you think you want to do more. But then there is also the like coach athlete relationship and husband wife relationship are completely different and is hard to manage. So I think there is that as well. And I was going to say as well, it depends. Like if you're someone that whatever your coach has written down, you're going to do it as close as you can, then maybe actually having a separate coach and husband works better. Whereas if you're happy to change a session, then maybe having the husband coach is better because there's always communication as well.
I think one thing Dave and I have had to work on is like there's a time when we're talking about training and then that time stops and then we're husband and wife rather than it like continuing, because I might read a plan, or I have a habit of looking at the plan and then going to bed fuming about something I've seen on it, being like, this is not okay. And I'll have to write notes in my phone, like in the middle of the night as I'm thinking about it. And then we'll go and have that conversation at another date and we'll look at the plan, we'll talk about it, etc., etc. But it doesn't like creep into like the whole of our lives. And I think like getting that balance at the start was quite hard, but now we're a little bit better at it. And it's like, there's like coach and athlete, and then there's husband and wife.
Don't go pretending to all the listeners, Jen, that you and Dave talk about anything else that isn't running. There's no distinction there. Like when you're talking, it might not be your own running. You're talking about other people's running, or your athletes running,
talking about YouTube.
Yeah, when we're not talking about our own running, we're watching other people running on YouTube, or talking about something else we've seen in running.
Yeah, we see the photos of your like TV where it's like, oh, we're watching this YouTuber now. Oh, we're watching this YouTuber now.
We sat down last night, Dev's like, there's some great new YouTubes up. I think we sat for like 2 hours just watching running YouTube. That's like, I don't know if that's something I should be admitting or not.
I guess, but also you need to ultimately come to a conclusion, a harmonious conclusion, don't you? So if you have debate, but you've got to live with each other. So it's got to be, I'm sure sometimes it can get a bit fierce, but actually it needs to conclude and get wrapped up, and there needs to be some ultimate, decision made that you're both happy with, if some sort of compromise, I guess.
And I think the more like he's been my coach, the more I've given him a bit more rope. So like to start with, I was very like almost like, wow, that's a bit different to what I was doing before, and I know like I've had success doing that, but so I'm not sure about it. But as like more successes come, I've given him a bit more rope, and I do look at the plan and sometimes disagree. and I'll ask him exactly why he's put that here and what the reasoning behind it is. And usually, like, if I do just accept it and go ahead and do it, he's proved me right in the fact that it was probably the right thing to do. It was probably harder than I thought it was going to look on paper anyway. And the more times that's happened, the more I'm more willing to kind of accept what he's written down. I will dig for reasoning though. I feel like I've learned and understood a lot more over the last 2 years about why I'm doing something, and the reason it's in my plan, rather than just following it blindly. And I think for me that's been really valuable.
So I guess what I'm taking from this is that Rachel should listen to her coach.
Yeah, I would say Rachel should listen to her coach, but always ask questions in as much detail as she needs in order to buy into the plan.
And if he's being an idiot, don't be afraid to call him an idiot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always stand your ground and put your foot down if you think you need to.
I feel sorry for Rachel's coach now. There was another question which I think is a good one as well, because it came up during the Road to Valencia series. It was just like how much do you alter or change your training based around where you are in your cycle?
I don't particularly alter it. I think because I track it and I'm aware of when it's coming and where it sits, and I know like the kind of the side effects it brings with it, I might, give myself a bit of grace in a session if like I'm not feeling great. If 15 by a K is written down on the plan, I'm probably going to still go out and run 15 by a K. But if I'm perhaps feeling a bit lethargic or a bit like crappy, or my legs feel a bit heavy, or the paces aren't coming out quite exactly how we'd expect them to, there's a reason behind it, and I know the trend now, and I know what should feel like something at some point. There are definitely like a couple of days during my cycle where like I could go out on a run and like be in a world of pain and just have to stop a lot of times or like pack it in. And there's a couple of times I've walked home. But apart from that, I try to kind of just crack on as normal, to be honest. Mainly because like if the race falls on like a day that's not very good during my cycle, I can't change the date of the race. And I've got to learn how to deal with that the best I can. And what the expectation should be perhaps on that race day if it does happen to fall on that day. So yeah, I try to do the plan as normal, but give myself a bit of grace around that too.
That mindset and like that approach was a big talking point with Emma, wasn't it, Dan? Like on the Emma Ross episode that you said people should go back and listen to. Was like and sort of, I guess I think she mentioned like the approach that like the EIS took with this was like if you spend 4 years preparing for the Olympics and then the event falls on like the worst day of an individual cycle for their performance, like you can't change that. You still have to perform. So it's about like learning how to manage it and almost like changing the mindset, I guess, of it, of not this cut, like this isn't, don't know, I guess, not letting it like catastrophize and
And I think because I've trained and raced now on pretty much all the different points in my cycle, and actually none of them have gone particularly any worse in most cases compared to any other point in my cycle, I've got now a bit of confidence and evidence that actually if I'm lining up for a race today, I'll probably be all right. And I think to start with, if you don't have that kind of evidence it's going to be okay, then it's a bit more daunting and you probably catastrophize a little bit more. Whereas now I'm like, okay, I've done this before. I'm probably going to be all right. I've done the exact same precautions and I've taken the exact amount of ibuprofen I usually do in these situations to kind of deal with the point in my cycle. And I've executed as well as I thought I was going to do on the day. It's given me a bit more confidence.
Cool. Who's next?
I forgot where we got up to. Is it my turn?
I think so.
Is it your turn?
Maybe. One of you two.
Shall I ask the couple of questions that Dan's got?
Yeah, go for it then.
Okay. So this is from Tinstagram. His question was thoughts on using AI to help you or help with training.
I put this under your name, Dan, just because we chatted a bit about like ChatGPT the other day, didn't we?
Did we on recording or off air?
Off recording,
Off
yeah.
air.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think AI is increasingly becoming part of our world, isn't it? And there's some great uses for AI, but there's also limitations, obviously. I'm personally of the opinion that at the minute, an AI generated program for you is probably not going to work very well, in that it just can't take into account all of the variables it needs to in order to generate a good program. And I think the same is true for a coach that is going to give you a 12-week program. So many things change in that 12 weeks. Every time I've gone and designed a marathon block for myself, I've never gone and followed that plan to the letter anywhere near. It's probably 50% different by the time I've actually completed the plan, because things change. You can't predict how much load you are going to be able to handle. Your ability to handle a given amount of load is going to change depending upon your lifestyle factors. So AI, I think good examples of AI exist. Like Meteopace must be built upon some sort of AI system, and that is using weather data to calculate what the effect is going to be on your performance and your finishing times, and what the actual good condition cost is versus the recurrent conditions that you're going to be facing on race day. That's a great use of AI. And things like designing things like putting in if you wanted to calculate your critical speed, for example, you could just give it some data and it will do that sort of stuff for you, which is great. And there are some good engines and calculators out there using AI, but I still think we're so far off being able to produce something that is going to give you an adaptive, well-guided, personalized plan based upon all the variables and data it needs. That's where I currently sit.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, I think there's still so much of a human impact, a human factor in it.
I think oh, you go ahead, Jen.
No, yeah, you go.
I was going to say, I think it's like using AI in the right context, like almost like thinking, like setting AI up to not setting AI up to fail is like how to use it as a tool. So like first of all, like you need to think of it as like how you need to think, how is this AI model being trained, in the same way that like if you had the choice to go and see a doctor and one of them's like gone to like the dodgiest like medical school and just bought a medical degree, they've not been trained very well, versus, you know, a doctor that's gone to like the best university and there's 15 years of like teaching and experience. Like that doctor's been trained better than that doctor. And the same with AI. Like, what's it being trained off of? If it's just being trained off of AI generated stuff and it's just a self-fulfilling cycle of crap, then it's going to be a crap AI system, isn't it? And it's going to give you crap answers. So that's the first thing.
I don't think a doctors would want to frame it on, because at least they're regulated. Let's say sports scientists.
Okay, yeah,
sports scientists. One of them's got a undergrad master's degree, whose base is accredited, or done a PhD or whatever, and 10 years experience, and one person has just decided they're going to call themselves a sports scientist because it's not a protected title.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
they're like, maybe in the UK at least, medicine's pretty regulated, but I get it. But definitely, like what data is it being trained upon? And actually, we are all individual, so that population is not going to reflect your individual circumstances. I think an example is like generic heart rate zones. On a population level, they work really well, and like predictions of max heart rate based upon age, on a population level, they work really well. But you'll get one given individual, and they might be
three. Like the comparison of our three heart rates.
We're all the same age, and our max heart rates are way different. So like we got 210, Jen, versus what do you get?
196, 197.
Yeah, whereas I'm about 188, I'd say. So whereas we should be, according to formulas, the same. Yeah. But like the average is probably about right. Yeah. So on a population level, it works, but actually at an individual level, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And what data are you training it upon? And the more extreme a population you get, the less data there is going to be available. So, if you look at whatever runner is using, for example, not to call out anyone's in particular, but
the algorithm on runner is written by people, so it's not AI. according
Yeah,
to
okay.
Runner.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
because that makes
Well,
sense.
that does make sense. Anyway, let's not call out any particular brands, but I don't think we're going to have a deal with Runner anytime soon.
No.
But for example, if you want to try and break 3 hours for the marathon, you're not representative of a normal data set, are you? Because not many people on a global level are breaking 3 hours of a marathon. And if you're talking about going under 2 hours 45, and it's even smaller percentage, and you're under 2:30, and now you're talking about elites, then right, there's a reason why we haven't got much research on elite athletes, and that's because they're such a small population. It's difficult to get a representative population of elite athletes because by definition they're elite and there's not many of them. So that's why it is difficult to get good models for that sort of more niche population.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say with AI is like there is some really good uses. Like the reason it came up in conversation with us was you using it for Excel, or like being able to use it for Excel, and the same with like using R, which is a like data formatting program, right? Like you can use it for making like graphs and figures for like papers, and AI for that is really good. Like that's a really useful, as someone like, I understand Excel, but not to the degree like Dan's a bit of an Excel wizard, but like I can really utilize AI to help improve my use of Excel. So that's a good use of it. But yeah, asking it, not to pick on him, but like Jake Barraclough asking it about an injury isn't a good use of AI. So like one of them's setting it up to fail, one of them is using it to its strength.
Yeah. I think if you're looking for, what am I trying to say? If you're giving it your own data and going, right, I want specifically to get this variable out of it, then there's probably a use for it. It's great at doing things like that. So finding a formula online. I gave critical speed as an example earlier. Like if you go and give your personal bests over 1500 meters, 3K, 5K to ChatGPT or whatever, it will then calculate your critical speed. And that it'll do that great. There's no error it's going to have there. But asking it to then use that to build a custom program for you for the next 6 months is probably not a good use of AI.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, I guess pick and choose your battles with AI.
Yeah. I do like AI. It helps me on a day-to-day basis, but it's just sometimes I've had battles where I thought AI might be applicable and be able to do what I wanted to do, and it just can't. And that's something we're all learning as we go into this new age of technology.
You sound like such an old man saying that statement.
I am an old man. I feel like an old man. Nye has aged me 10 years.
Well, the other question for you, Dan, is from Jack, and it is seafood, paella, and limoncello before Seville.
Well, I think that's what all went wrong before Valencia, you see, is that we didn't go out for the seafood paella and limoncello because just wasn't very practical when you got a group of 8 people and a 3-year-old to tag along. So if I'm getting Seville and I'm there by myself, definitely seafood paella and limoncello. I think that will be the secret to running 2:10.
Have you sorted your entry?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. I'm
still email after this.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on it. There are still spots available because I know other people have got in. So I'm hoping that I've not just been ostracized for some random reason. But I'm sort of mildly optimistic I can get a place.
Cool. Dan, I think it's your question next.
Am I addressing your questions to you?
I don't mind. You ask what you want.
Yeah. I think one you've talked about before, but it would be good to hear your thoughts on again is Greg has asked, how would you change your training for a 100K race compared to a marathon? And and Caroline has also asked on the same theme, like, will you go back to ultras? Or is it now like sub 2:30? Is that what is really driving you and motivating you now?
It's getting deep. I guess Caroline's first. Like, yeah, I obviously would like to go sub 2:30. If we talk about like performance planning, although you've had a couple of voice notes from me, Dan, being like, I don't know if this all fits in, but I think doing 100K in March does fit into then an autumn marathon. I don't want to do a spring and an autumn marathon. Like, just mentally, I don't want to do that. So I think I'm going to do both ideally. As in, I'm going to ideally get picked for the ultra and then ideally try and go sub 2:30. That would be how I'm setting up the year. And then, yeah, training for 100K. So again, I was thinking about this morning. I think that, yeah, when you look at the determinants of performance for a road 100K, that is probably going to be flat. I haven't seen the course for March, but I think especially after this year, I don't think it will be that hilly. Obviously, like hilly, like it was like 50 meters over 5K, which isn't too bad, but over 100K, that's a lot. So I think the determinants of performance are like just how fit you are. So, and especially like where your LT1 sits, and then your durability. And I think that the best way to train those is probably still doing essentially marathon training. So spending some time above LT1, because I think that's probably the best way to improve durability that we like maybe know of at the moment. I mentioned like adding in some strength training, so that would be something I would do. But I would do that for the marathon anyway, because I think that would also improve your durability. And then maybe there would be a couple of long, like just easy long runs that are a bit longer, but not above like 3 hours, I don't think. And then realistically applying it to the time frame I have, I don't know how much time I'll have for those anyway. Like if you gave me the choice of 2.5 hours where it's like 75 minutes easy and then 6 by 10 minutes like we did, or 3 hours easy, I would take the 2.5 hours and the 6 by 10 minutes and just rely on being a bit fitter and having better durability at the end. But I really don't think it would change that much. Maybe if you had a whole year to train just for the 100K, then it would be different. But I also think I would, I'm making a lot of assumptions. Like I might not be picked, but if I'm doing this 100K, I'm going in off the back of a marathon block where I've had the time to recover, versus this past year going in off the back of a 40-mile block where I don't think I necessarily had as much time as I'd like to recover. So going in at a different spot as well.
It was a tight turnaround, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What would you experiment with going a bit further though? Because there is a balance. Obviously, there's a balance between intensity and duration, but you could just still do something at a pretty decent pace and go a bit longer. I'm thinking like 50K at 100K race pace, for example.
Yeah, maybe. I think I feel like with this there isn't the time. Like I feel like I don't know. Like I guess I'm thinking ahead like almost a month. I feel like maybe I would be ready to do a run like that at the end of January, start of Feb, and then at that point I've got like 6 weeks until the race. So it's how much is that going to detract from training? Whereas if I had 12 weeks after that, I'd like 100% I would do a few of those. So I guess, but yeah, I guess in an ideal world, yeah, I probably would do like, 2.5, 3 hours at a slightly faster pace. I guess I'd be going into it knowing I'm going to feel absolutely cooked by the end of it. Wouldn't plan anything else at the end of like the rest of that day, but I would maybe add that in, but I'd feel like it's risky. I'd feel like it would impact the training for a few days after. So, which you maybe wouldn't do in a marathon block, but I think like 95% of the training's the same, because I think the end result, the end physiological result you want is fairly similar. And then like, I think also it's like on race day, then executing the right pacing strategy. Like you can have done all of the like longer long runs that you want, but if you go out too hard, it doesn't matter. Like you're blowing up and walking.
Yeah, I agree. Very similar. I do want to do one day. It's definitely on my bucket list to do one. Maybe next year.
I've been saying to Mick that if he wants to set up like a 50K split, like a properly timed 50K split at Barry, I reckon you'd go long. So
I do want to get my British record back.
Yeah.
I do want to do that. It's definitely, I would like to reclaim. It's just not many 50k races around, and then it's giving up a marathon opportunity basically to go run a 50k, which, you know, I am motivated to try and make teams and do stuff like that, and you are giving up an opportunity to have a crack at a qualifying time, really. So if there was a window where, yeah, there were no big races coming up, I had no massive motivation to go and run a marathon PB, then yeah, maybe 50k would be on the cards. But
would running a 50k at Barry count? Like, this is why I don't get it. I don't think that would count as road, would it?
So, it's combined now. It's just road and track together, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Because on my Power 10, it's down as like 40,000 meters. No, it's something really odd how it's written down. Yeah, I'll try to dig it out. Where are we? Fortunately, I've got Power 10 open. Oh no, it is 40 miles. It was down as like track or something, and it was like a really odd way of like putting it. It was like 63,000 meters or something. Yeah, really odd.
Jesus.
Odd way of putting it.
Nice.
I think that sounds worse than 40 miles.
Do you think we've got one or two questions left?
I think so, yeah.
You want to end with a fun one?
Yeah.
Go on then.
All right, Jen.
I think there's a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Menno, and you choose one.
Well, I was going to say, because I think the answers would be quite interesting. He asked two questions. I have a feeling Alex was ill when he asked these.
What makes you think that?
He said, sorry, he said, how do you cope when you can't train because of illness? And then he also asked, how useful is HRV in determining training readiness after illness? So yeah, I hope you're feeling better, Alex. Jen, I want to hear Jen. How do you cope when you can't train because of illness?
Not very well. I think it depends how ill I am. If I got COVID a few years ago and I was like bedridden, couldn't do anything, didn't even feel like training. I was like, okay, fine, that's it. I'm not getting up today. When it's like I feel a bit unwell, but I definitely could still go out and do a run. I'm going out and I'm trying. I take a little bit. I pay a bit more attention to heart rate, just because like that's probably my only a way to control the intensity whilst I'm out, to not overcook myself. There's the saying, isn't it? It's like, if it's above your chest, you're all right, and if it's below, you shouldn't train.
I think it's your neck, isn't it? Yeah,
your neck.
It's your neck. Yeah.
So I do kind of just pray and hope that, like, or I just ignore any signs below the neck and just convince myself it's just in the head. As you can probably tell from this answer, I don't cope very well if I'm ill.
That's not a shock to anybody, I don't think, Jen. So I wouldn't.
I try not to get ill. I think that's the main thing. I had like a week during the marathon block where I was in the head. I was just not feeling very well. But I think I managed, the way the week worked out. It was like a 3-day period where I didn't have a session written on the plan. I was just easy running, so I was probably able to kind of get through the worst of it before I added any intensity into it. I think one thing I would do is move a session day. So if I had a session day and I didn't feel very well, I'd probably still go out and do my normal mileage, but I might move the session to the next day to account for kind of just getting through the worst of it.
Yeah, I think it's just decide what the next most important thing is, like training wise. So like when I got probably COVID at the start of the block, it was like, okay, well, like, I think it sort of hit me on like Tuesday and then like Wednesday morning, and it was like, okay, Sunday is the next important thing. So what do I need to do to be the best I can be on Sunday? And it was like, okay, just don't run that day, rather than. But then that comes from experience of trying to push through and having it go wrong. I think also in hindsight, I got really lucky with talking to other people that did actually test and like tested positive. Like, I think I did have COVID, but like if you said to me 5 years ago, you're going to get COVID and it's going to hit you on Wednesday, and then you're going to go do a long run with, like, we did 50 minutes hard on the Sunday, I would have been like, no way. Like, I'd be like, oh, I'm, this might be the end of like my running career sort of thing. Obviously, there's different strains and everything, but like that, I guess like sort of got lucky in terms of, was just like, oh, I'm just a bit of a head cold. that helped. But yeah, it's just what's the next big thing, and how does it's the same as the performance planning. Like, what's the next big thing? How does this decision impact that? I think is the best way to approach it. I think.
Yeah, yeah. Don't
Or
ask for me advice
yeah, I was gonna say,
about returning to running after the Gale.
Or come and run 30k with me and Jen without gels.
It wasn't the lack of gels that were the issue. I've gone and done 28k this morning without gels and was absolutely fine. But yeah, I was just in a bad place. And it was poor decision making. But anyway, I will take on the heart rate variability part of the question though, and I think I'm really not sold on heart rate variability being that useful a tool, because stress is so non-specific, and the stress from illness again is just a different branch of that. So heart rate variability is just the beat to beat variation in your heart rate. So and that is supposed to represent your level of sympathetic nervous system activation. So are you more in a flight or fight response, or are you more in a rest and digest response? Are you more like parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system activated? But if you talk to someone who's actually measuring this stuff in a research context, they all laugh at the idea of you getting good heart rate variability data from your watch. They're sticking needles into nerves to get this data properly. And even then, it is noisy. If you cough, the signal goes completely up wrong. So I guess the first question is heart rate variability even accurately representing parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system activity? Which then is loosely going to correlate with your levels of stress hormones, etc. So that's like the first part of the question, and I wouldn't be very confident it does. And then secondly, it's only looking at your nervous system response. It's not looking at muscle damage. It's not looking at your immune cell levels, your leukocytes, etc. So if it's massively off, and that's also coinciding with symptoms being quite severe, and you just generally don't feel good and ready to run, then yeah, maybe it's one more piece of information. Just like resting heart rate, I would probably be more confident in resting heart rate than heart rate variability, because heart rate variability is just an imputed measure which is supposed to represent something else. Whereas heart rate, well, we know what heart rate is. It's just how quickly is your heart rate beating. It's quite easy to understand. And yeah, if your heart rate is 10 beats above what it normally is, it's probably not very normal. It's probably not a normal response. Whereas there is just so much more noise with heart rate variability data. And again, every watch is using different measures. So same for resting heart rate as well. Some watches are going to give you your lowest 2-minute value. Some are going to give you your lowest half an hour value, which I think is what Garmin does. Some watches will give you your just mean heart rate when you are asleep. But how does it know when you're asleep? They're not very good at detecting that either. And then heart rate variability is even noisier. So I wouldn't use heart rate variability as a good guide on returning from illness or just in general. Maybe if it's really off, it's outside of its normal range, that is one marker of things might not be quite right and normal. But I would, if my heart rate variability was off, but I felt normal, my runs were feeling good, I generally felt fine, I would be ignoring heart rate variability.
I don't look at any of them. Yeah, because I don't want to wake up having had a good night's sleep and feeling good, and then see my heart rate variability is a bit lower, and then feel like, okay, something's up. Like I don't think that is a beneficial use of the number. So I don't look at it. And then when we were preparing for the like training block wrap up episode, I've got myself on Training Peaks, and then on that you can see all of the data. And I just went through, and there didn't seem to be any correlation with my HRV and like how the week where I was ill. There was, and actually when I was preparing for that, I then had that bit of man flu I had like last week. Like there was no correlation with my HRV and like me knowingly being unwell. So how and that's across 13 14 weeks of data. So how am I meant to like apply that when I wake up and look at my HRV off of my watch? I do think there's maybe if you're taking it the sort of the Marco Altini method of, you know, like putting on a heart rate strap and then using like is HRV4 is the app he has, like
HRV for training.
yeah, like that maybe offers a bit of better data. I think part of the problem is that everyone does it slightly differently. So like Garmin's HRV is slightly different to, you know, Coros's versus like Apple's versus HRV for training. So yeah, like whereas like you say, Dan, like or even resting heart rate, I think Garmin take like, you know, it takes a section of like 30 minutes and it's
so Garmin takes the lowest 30-minute average, but what it will do is it just takes it from midnight on one day to midnight on the next day. So I've had instances where I have felt unwell, I have been ill, my heart rate has been elevated on I've woken up on Saturday morning, I've looked at my resting heart rate, it's been elevated over the night, but then I go to bed at 10 o'clock and actually my resting heart rate now reports lower the next day for that day, because in that 10 till midnight range, I had a lower resting heart rate 30-minute section. So it's not even like night to night, it's 24 hour to 24 hour. So that's not how people are thinking about this data, is it? That's not a practical way of doing it.
It's the problem with like we say it before, don't we? Like black box data and like I think I've said this on here before. Like I saw someone just say like what is a body battery, which is like Garmin's, you know, combination of HRV, heart rate, like resting heart rate. Like what is it? It's not actually a thing. It's an attempt at like explaining something to you, but you need to decide if that feels accurate for you. Generally across a year, like body battery probably does, but there's instances where it won't. Like I didn't wear my watch all afternoon yesterday, so that's probably going to throw out that number for a few days because it's just got no data for probably like 12 hours. So like that, you know, it can't capture everything, can it? And it's just a bit black box. You just get a number at the end.
Yeah. I prefer to stick to things like things that you can actually measure. So heart rate, you know, RPE, lactate, not body battery, recovery time, like even heart rate variability. Really, they're just the more black box and algorithm based it gets, the more assumptions you're making.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, last question then. Would we ever organise and host our own race from Leo? What do you reckon?
I have a plan for a race, but like it needs me to actually do something with it. But no, I reckon there needs to be a good Boxing Day race around Cardiff. Like Boxing Day and either a road race of an off distance. So we were talking yesterday, Dan, right, about like Lliswerry 8, which is like just a quite a unique distance. But you know, like there's a couple of 5 mile races.
8 miles.
Yeah. Or I reckon like a Boxing Day fell race, and I reckon like, you know, just go straight up the Garth and back down, and have like a fairly open route choice, and you know, like just a couple of quid to enter, like use the Parkrun app for timing, sort of thing, like really low budget. Fell race is my thought. So I have thought about it. I would like to.
I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum to you, but I would quite like to organise a race. Although I imagine it is I know it's so much hard work. There's so much goes into it, but I would be more looking to fill that gap in the autumn calendar with a good marathon, which is flat and fast. A bit like this, like marathon projects they've got in the US going on, where they had in Wrexham, didn't they, with the Cheshire Elite races? If you get a UK marathon, which is everyone can get drinks, it's small numbers, but you're probably having to pay quite a bit to get in, just because you are getting a really good provision, and you're keeping it small. Like, everyone can have drinks. There's pacers. I'm thinking we're doing 13 laps of Rose Inn or something. I was
going to say Rose Inn.
Yeah,
has to
exactly.
be Rose Inn.
Yeah, or on that, somewhere like on that Newport Loop. The Newport Marathon is actually a good course, but the problem is you haven't got the standard there, and it's another race in the spring. Imagine if you had we're going to get 500 people who are going to run under 3 hours round Newport. Everyone gets their own drinks. There's pacemakers for every 15-minute block or whatever, every 10-minute block. That'd be like really good, I think.
Maybe we'll do that podcast race.
Yeah.
I reckon we should leave this one up to the listeners, and they should comment and suggest their ideas as to what sort of race we should host.
And then what? We've got to follow through with it.
Yeah, but no, it's just
We'll go
plan
crowdfunding for some investment, shall we?
Plan some ideas. It can be as wild and as wacky as they want. Maybe we just pick our favourite and like discuss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very hard
Interested
being
here.
a race director, event director. I think it would be very, very difficult. But
You
it
have
would
to
be
deal with
something
people.
I know. Yeah. People are hard work, aren't they? Not the athletes they coach, they're all great. But,
It's large scale amounts of people, isn't it?
On a global scale.
yeah.
You need to not also be trying to run a fast time whilst doing it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one or the other, isn't it? You
Yeah.
can't have both.
I'll be pacemaking. I'll be chief pacemaker for the sub 220 group.
I think that'd be cool. It'd be cool to see. It's a shame. Like you said, one of the issues, there's no good UK autumn marathons. Like,
Exactly, it's
sorry,
filling a gap.
Chester and Abingdon, but there isn't.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they would be considered better if lots of fast people went to them.
But then neither of them are fast. Like Abingdon's not closed roads, and Chester, is hilly, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, it needs to be a good autumn marathon, and then
In the UK.
yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just go to Valencia, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Should we leave it there?
reckon
I
it's
can't
a
believe this has been our
mammoth
longest episode over the last 3 months or whatever.
It's because we're not recording late at night.
Yeah, we've got
It's
far
still
more energy.
it's still daylight. Yeah. Cool.
Great.
Awesome.
So
Thank
happy
you.
New Year, and
Yeah.
I hope you had a good Christmas and all that stuff. And thanks for listening. Anything else to say? Should we wrap that up?
Check's all out.
Yeah.
it.
That's right from us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch you
Cheers.
soon.
Catch you all soon.